Once again, the White House says one thing, they do another, while members of the Obama administration are running around adamantly denying that they're selling access to the president. That's not what appears to have happened earlier tonight. Now, President Obama spoke at a founder dinner for Organizing for Action, which is an advocacy group whose sole purpose is to push through his radical left-wing agenda. And as we reported on this show, a $500,000 contribution, well, that's going to secure you quarterly meetings with the commander-in-chief himself. But no matter how much the White House tries to spin the story, well, taxpayers aren't buying it. Americans Crossroads is now fighting back. They have a new ad. Watch this.
Helping seniors cross the street? Appropriate. Texting during dinner? Inappropriate. Selling access to the president for $500,000?
Perfectly appropriate.
What?
Perfectly appropriate.
The Obama administration officially ending all White House tours.
But with a perfectly appropriate donation of $500,000, President Obama will come to you. Yes, with Organizing for Access, getting special treatment has never been more
appropriate.
Just ask George Kaiser. He bundled cash for Obama. Solyndra got millions. Or Donald Gibbs. He raised $500,000. Then Obama named him an ambassador.
Who cares what I think? What does Obama like? Here's what he likes. Because here's where the federal government's putting money. And let me tell you, whatever he likes, that's what I like.
Some things in life are just inappropriate. But Organizing for Access?
Perfectly appropriate.
Send in your executive order today. Call now and we'll make you a member of Organizing for Access's exclusive 1% club. We accept all major credit cards, personal checks, and large sacks of cash.
All right, joining me with reaction, Fox News contributor, the architect Karl Rove. Karl, I love that ad. That's good stuff. But I don't like the idea that little kids can't go to the White House unless they got a $500,000 check, apparently.
Yeah, and of course the president blamed it on the Secret Service when it turns out it was a decision made inside the White House. Look, let's step back. 2 years ago, in the fall of 2010, President Obama went to Towson, Maryland to give a speech to attack soft money groups that had accepted contributions in excess of the federal limit for political campaigns. He called them a threat to democracy. He was talking about the group that I'm associated with, American Crossroads, that sponsored that web video. Tonight, he spoke at Organizing for Action, which is a soft money group just like the ones that he was describing 2 years ago as threats to democracy. So chalk it up, a little bit of hypocrisy. The difference is that when this group, OFA, advertised for solicited contributions, they said if you gave $500,000, you would get quarterly briefings by the White House, and implying that you'd go to the White House for those briefings. Now, tonight, they had the president go to the St. Regis Hotel. I was having dinner down the street, and I literally was walking by the St. Regis as the president was leaving. I tried to thumb a ride up to the Fox studios, but he didn't stop.
He didn't stop for you? But this is really important because is the president allowed to sell access like that? That's a blatant quid pro quo. I know it's the Chicago way, but
yeah, I can tell you this, Sean. If I had come up with this kind of a nutty scheme when I was in the Bush White House, the White House counsel would have grabbed for the phone and only hesitated to figure out should they call a lunatic asylum or call the Justice Department to refer me for an investigation. This to me does not pass the smell test. There are laws that prohibit the administration from soliciting contributions for lobbying efforts. There's a specific law that prohibits any money of any amount being spent by the White House to lobby Congress. And this is clearly an effort to lobby the Congress. They admit that. And clearly the White House is in touch with this group, which means the White House, in the time and energy and effort and the physical act of making a phone call, is violating the federal law. I don't see how the president's getting away with it. I certainly don't see why the president's people are letting him get away with it, except I guess they think they can just sort of bully their way through this by saying, oh, we're not selling access, when their literature said $500,000 and you get quarterly meetings with the White House and with the president.
Well, that's the point. It's there in black and white. You can read it, and
yeah.
You have Jay Current, perfectly acceptable. So
perfectly acceptable.
Now, I understand under Eric Holder, which is a Justice Department that has been politicized, nothing's going to happen then. But is there do you see potential legal problems for the president as, considering all the mistakes that they've made and all the evidence they left behind?
Well, look, I do think this is well, first of all, we'll leave it up to lawyers to decide. I'm not a lawyer, but I have talked to people who are ethics lawyers who thinks this stinks. But look, here's one other thing. This will cause problems for the president on a number of levels. First of all, every Republican who gets one of these phone calls engendered by an email saying, call Congressman Smith and tell him to stop, throwing Granny out of the nursing home and ripping kids out of Head Start programs and firing teachers. They're not going to be fooled. They know exactly where this is coming from, and it's coming from the Obama political machine, and as a result, it will have less impact. Second of all, you're going to find some Democrats who say this liberal agenda is not comfortable in my swing state or my swing district, and they're going to be upset with OFA. And thirdly, remember, Obama's raising money. Now, it's one thing to go out there and raise $500,000 from big donors, but you'll notice they got a website. They're doing email requests. Almost every day I see an e-blast from them with a donate request. That's going to irritate Democrat candidates and Democratic political committees.
But there seems to be one goal here. I think the president knows his radical agenda isn't complete unless and until he gets the House of Representatives. And hence the demonization, the doom and gloom, the apocalyptic talk. It seems to all be, the nonstop campaigning by him. Isn't that all to drag down Republicans, divide them and hurt them? Do you think he's going to be successful or no?
Well, there's a column tomorrow in the Wall Street Journal I would commend to your readers, your watchers. Pick it up in the morning or go to rove.com later in the day. I think I did a pretty good job on the column, if I say so myself. But I think he's failing at it. Overplayed on the sequester. He's got a very liberal agenda. And these kind of things, like today, this morning, he went on Good Morning America with George Stephanopoulos and implied that the Republican agenda was, quote, to gut Medicare, to gut Social Security, to gut Medicaid. And then he goes up later and...
And he mentioned the children again. It's always the children. By the way, the children that he's stealing from.
Right. And then he goes up to Capitol Hill and meets with the Republicans and says, I want to work with you. That was clearly what he said on camera, clearly was what he meant, and what he said in private, I don't think he really meant, and it's hurting him. His numbers are going down. They're going down faster. He is way below where Clinton was at this point after his second election, and is only going to get worse before the 2014 election. You're in a blue you're a Democrat in a purple state or a purple district or a red state or a red district. You don't like this at all if you're a Democrat.
All right, Carl Rove, I love the ad. That was a great ad. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
You bet. Thank you.
Coming up next.